See my screen?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I have to run through because in fact I had actually requested for almost 45 or 50 minutes to cover the whole thing, but I think I'll do my best here. So, first a few disclaimers, folks, because all of us here we have been reading and we know much about Web 3.0 is what I feel. And some of us have that notion that it is a hype, it's a sales term, it's a passing phase, or whatever that is. And as some of us were chatting just now, things have gone to Web 5.0, 6.0, N.0. I mean, it's going on. So all of us know here. I understand that I humbly accept that each of us have a strong opinion also, and but Web 3.0 is multiple things. I think in different stages of evolution. So I think we need to pick and choose as platform leads here, as influencers. What we need to pick and choose for our platforms is important. And I definitely feel not everything about Web 3.0 is a hype, because we have seen that some of the people here in this call, their kids are actually being paid in crypto coins, if you will. Very new thing. And and many of the Web 3.0 constructs that we see today are actually mainstream. So it's not all that hype is what I'm trying to present. And lots of house. And especially my intention is to provide my personal point of view after discussing with various leaders in this call. My personal point of view, and I'd be more than glad if all of you can align with some of those points. Quick agenda here: what are the main promises and the six key elements of Web 3.0? In fact, there were many. We tried to packetize it so that we get at the leadership level here, the six main key elements just come out individually. And what will change? DApps is one of the most important things when it comes to web apps. Already there is a lot of hiring going on. We have directors being hired for DApps in Google in Hyderabad and Bangalore. And finally, we'll end with what is my point of view and what are the promises, and we'll try to revisit the promises. So, important thing as I put it there, one needs to know is that the phrase itself has its roots in Ethereum, in the blockchain, in the cryptocurrency. It was found by Gavin Wood in 2014, and so that is one important thing that we will take along as I proceed into my discussion. So that's a quick agenda. I'm sorry, I'll be fast here. And the four important promises is what Web 3.0 has brought to the world, is that the power to the people, the grasp of the whatever the power that we have with the big tech today, that needs to come to the people. It's more of a liberation, if you will, a social structure. You remove the control, you get the freedom from all this ad-based monetization or the surveillance capitalism that we see. And users to govern their own data. Very important. Power to the people is the first big promise that Web 3.0 has it for us. And this term is going to be very common. Already it is there in our jargon now. This is going to become more and more common. It's a new era of decentralization, peer-to-peer internet. Nothing that, this was already there almost 20 years back. Many of us here have used Napster. Napster was a peer-to-peer network. I used to transfer file from my desktop to another desktop without having to go to the server. But there are few new things that have come over the past 20 years. And the deconstruction of the vast databases, all our IDs today are sitting with either Facebook, Google. Just imagine how many of the apps that are sitting on your phones, you're actually directly logging through your Gmail ID. Just think about it. And the most important thing is the location of data creation is more important than where it is stored. So that brings us to the edge and 5Gs of the world right now. Power to the people, decentralization, new economy. Well, the whole economic model that is built around blockchain, around cryptocurrency, that is going to be a very big promise that Web 3.0 is making. Digital asset creation, and very important, as I was discussing extensively with Sangeeta yesterday, the creator economy is going to be important. What a user like me, a creator, if I feel that this deck itself that I have made today is going to be a very important asset that I can create, I can actually monetize that, and without having to go through payment gateways, without middlemen, etc. So the creator economy is going to be a one very big promise, and a gamut of technologies, be it metaverse, be it DApps, be it semantic web, etc. Lots of experiential technologies, shared experiences, and people spaces. Four important web promises. As we go through, We'll try to deconstruct few of these towards the end of the call. Very quick check on this. See, most of us have evolved from Web 1.0. We used to be the coders who used to create the content. I used to take the content, put it in HTML and upload it. We used to be coders. We used to mostly use desktops in the Web 1.0 era, which was more of data. We moved on to the mobile and different form factors, if you will. But the content creator moved to web users. We started accumulating data using Facebook, etc. The content creators were the users in this era, and of course, all the big tech played the major role in hosting and also storing the data. We saw the growth of cloud, etc. In Web 3.0, there is going to be completely new experiences, new devices, new technologies, new sorts of apps. The creator continues to be the web user, and the data owner will also be the web user. In the earlier era, or even right now, most of our data is sitting with these big tech, but tomorrow it will be sitting with us in blockchains, etc. So we started with a decentralized environment, we moved to a centralized, and then again we are moving to a decentralized era. And there are 6 key elements of Web 3.0: decentralization, trustless, blockchain, semantic web, and a whole lot of connectivity, AI, ML, and edge, and immersive experiences. So these 6 are very important to understand. And as I told each of the platform leads, we can actually pick and choose which of these are relevant to us. Decentralization, it's a peer-to-peer powered internet. We will see we are already seeing in some of the constructs we can talk about, the democratic, there will not be any particular hosting company. You are going to have your apps hosted in blockchains using decentralized data. And of course, the dependency on the big tech is going to be removal of the dependency is going to be important. Users to retain the ownership. And decentralization at every level. Storage is not going to be the same. Content creation will be decentralized. Identity, we are not going to be dependent on Azure Active Directory or the directories of Facebook, Google, or these things which typically we use for logins, etc. Micropayments are going to be decentralized, and the whole aspect of decentralized autonomous organizations, DAO, is going to be important. So few important terms here when it comes to decentralization are DAO, decentralized exchanges, decentralized finance, DApps. Very important construct for Web 3.0. Going forward, there are 3 things, that is TPO, if you have to remember: trustless, permissionless, and open. Please don't think that trustless means untrustworthy. No. Trustless means it's only that you are going to have a more stronger trust. Only thing is that my trust to you should not be endorsed by some third-party provider like a Microsoft or a Facebook to tell that, look, this person is very good and you can have a transaction with that. No. So the trustless network allows participants to interact publicly. I can give an example, but lack of time. Maybe if there is a time later, we can have much examples. Permissionless, both users and suppliers can participate without authorization. There is basically the end of these middlemen, be it banks, be it payment gateways, etc. Open as in open source. My code is available for people to build on. So some of these, as I mentioned, could look like a bit of fiction right now. Some things are open. Only time will tell. Some of these things will, but definitely a few things of TPO are already there. And some things are very beautiful, especially the part where my entire IDs are sitting with these big tech, and I don't want that to happen. So the smart contracts are going to play an important role here, and permissionless, permissioned blockchains. There are various types of blockchains as well. Key concept here is that 3.0 applications will run on blockchains and decentralized peer-to-peer networks, and that's what we call as DApps. So trustless, permissionless, open, second important construct. And then third one, I don't want to spend too much time here: blockchain, crypto, and new economy. This is what actually drives Web 3.0. If you have my first slide, it was actually coined by the guy who actually invented Ethereum. So the origin is in this particular area. So blockchains is a completely different topic for discussion. We can have a separate call for that. Shared records basically. Databases stored, maintained, and updated by multiple parties with no central authority. And blockchain move trust from central parties to the network participants. And the crypto economics. The crypto economics is, see, this is one of the things which is tough to understand as well, with all honesty, and how it works. And this has a lot of debates, and we have also seen scandals, etc., that is happening around the Bitcoin and this part. And if you see, there's a quick pictorial I have put there. In the current scheme of things, the internet acts as a backbone, and all the databases are stored in user authenticated databases that are again owned by the Microsofts and AWSs of the world. But tomorrow it is going to be the blockchain that will determine. Blockchain is not owned by anybody. Blockchain can be owned by anybody, and that's how it is. I mean, even in Web 1.0, hosting companies could be anybody. But here in blockchain, things are more open. As in, my code is available, and the trustless, permissionless, and open adheres to the blockchain stack there. Quickly, stable coins, NFT, exchange tokens, digital currencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum. These are all the things that have an important role to play in this particular construct of 3.0. Now, this thing is already there. When a person now types in Google, right, you already have a suggestion that flows in. A suggestion that comes in, okay, do you want to use this? So, a sort of a semantic web is already in play. However, today's development of semantic web is heavily dependent on, again, the databases and the data that resides with the big tech. The main thing is, when you decentralize that, the semantic web experience, if you decentralize it out of the control of the big tech, is what is Web 3.0 about. So, I mean, just look at what semantic web is. Data that is associated, that easily processed by the machines, and it enables interpretation of massive amount of data and linkages of the people, and effective means of data representation. Three very important things: context, intent, and artificial intelligence. For example, when I am searching for a hotel room sitting in Hyderabad, for a hotel room in Hampi, could be different from what the hotel room for Hawaii would look like. So when the location of the person becomes very important, the context, the intent, and and it's not today. Also, it happens, but the data is residing in proprietary hardware and software, and it is not linking. And it is not also linking to the data that I own. So I could be owning a lot of data on my own side in any of the blockchains or decentralized data. So that is not linked. So I'm not monetizing my data. I can monetize my data so that the other applications can use my data and improve. So context, intent, and AI. So semantic web is going to play an important role. Connectivity, in Web 3.0 or beyond that, we are seeing a situation where we can't step out of the house without our phones, which are connected to the internet. I mean, think about a situation in Web 3.0 where we are looking at hyper connectivity, where the data will get processed and processed at the point of its creation, which is the edge. Think about a world where you need to step out without a phone tomorrow, with all this is going on. So, while on one side I will touch upon in the end, while we are talking about taking the power to the people, but look at the power that the Geos or the Verizons or the Comcasts of the world will have when the entire world will be in the hands of these service providers. So on one side we are talking about giving power to the people or removing the power from the big tech, but what is going on is, I think, the power will shift to the satellite and satcom providers is what we feel. And AI, ML, and edge are going to be very critical. Machine learning in 3.0 will be used to continuously improve accuracy. 5G, edge, and beyond, we don't know what is next, and that is going to play a crucial role. Last point, what I made is very important. The SATCOM and internet providers are to play a very crucial role. Everything is getting connected. These four things are going to be critical: connectivity, AI, ML, and edge. Last one, I don't want to spend too much time. We all know so much about metaverse. The immersive experiences are going to be important. There are too many companies that are building it. One very important point which I put in right there is that metaverse and Web 3.0 are two separate things. I can do metaverse. I can create metaverse applications. I can do Altspace VR applications without thinking about Web 3.0. However, when I'm going to marry my immersive experiences with blockchain, with crypto, with NFT, with decentralization, without having to depend on the big tech. Altspace VR is owned by Microsoft. Something else is owned by Meta. So when I'm going to create those experiences without having to depend on these big guys is what the true immersive experiences under Web 3.0 is going to be. So these 6 things, if you are the most important. This is a quick one pager on apps. Distributed apps are going to play a big role, but there are lots of there is a school of thought against that also. So what it is basically it is built on open source software. It is a distributed open source application and runs in a peer-to-peer blockchain. So it runs on a blockchain. It doesn't depend on, just like the picture I showed you earlier. And once a developer has created the code and he releases the code, others can build on top of it. It is more of like a crowdsourcing sort of a thing. And the use of blockchain is very important. All these apps are built on blockchain and always accessible to a single. So there will not be a single point of failure. As I mentioned in the promises, open source, decentralized storage, cryptographic, fault tolerant. As in, it cannot have a single point of failure. Again, I'm repeating. I'm sorry. And the hacking cannot be done. Of course, today also I can do my global application. I create a pass up on Azure. I can make use of the locations and regions to make it highly available. It can have multiple instances, but I am dependent on Satya Nadella or Andy Jassy or Kurian to actually build that sort of an application. It's without the dependency on these guys. I need to build a fault tolerant, globally available application. And data integrity, flexibility, user application. So on the right side, what we see today, Chrome will have its own avatar as Brave. Very important. Dropbox, as I was discussing Sangeeta yesterday, Dropbox moved out of a public cloud to their own private cloud. Now that is going to come to a next level where you will have a international file system, IPFS. Very interesting is, if you have some time, maybe you can just take a look at EOS. EOS is going to be, as they have articulated, it is the Android killer. It is E/dash//. The way it is written is also different. I couldn't write it there. It's an Android killer. It is made on open source. It is available for public funded, and that fellow actually asks you for your contribution if you add a little bit of your code over it. So EOS and all these things on the bottom, Brave, IFPS, are going to be the alternate avatars of WhatsApp, of Facebook, of Android, of Skype, Dropbox, etc. in the Web 3.0 world. And all these are called distributed apps. Tremendous activity going on, especially in Google, where they're hiring people with DApp skills. And think about the big tech itself investing and getting into DApps. My quick point of view, 3 things I will not go to the very elaborate slide I wanted to present actually, but that's okay. 3 things I want to tell this audience, which is a very senior, mature audience here. There has always the history has taught us that some level of centralization and control is needed, be it a tribal leader or a president of the state or parliament or something like that, or a consortium. There is a control that is needed. Without a control or without some sort of a control, especially when it comes to a socio-economic inequality, not every one of us is not equal. So you do need a control to run those rules. The second important thing is money. When it comes to cryptocurrency, etc., the whole concept of money, right from ages, is going to be a system based on trust and rules. So money cannot be, in a fully decentralized and unregulated form. It is not like a file or some XML file that you toss between databases or blockchains, etc. So it's a much bigger thing. It's not that the blockchain or crypto is going to be the panacea for everything. Finally, what I wanted to just tell you is that there has always been these struggles against monopolies, be it Steve Jobs against IBM or Gandhi himself doing something, or Elon Musk against NASA, etc. So what has happened is these particular, while the core intent initially was to put the hands in the power of the people, put the power in the hands of the people, etc. There has always been a shift of power. So always been a shift of power. Today you're talking about pulling the data in Web 3.0 out of the big tech, but the power is going to shift to somebody else. So right. So these are three things which are very important, I thought. And let me just come back to the initial promises. The power to the people, as I said, that is not going to be fully acceptable. The nature of power is going to shift. And one important thing is the big tech itself is heavily investing in Web3 startups. They are acting as venture capitalists for all these 3.0 startups. So is it really going to take power out of them? And it's a question for you to ask. 100% leverage on internet is not possible. Decentralization is a fantastic concept in my personal opinion. There will be areas of decentralization, but not everything is going to be applicable. Users governing their data is a fantastic idea, is what I feel. That so much of data I generate every day, morning to evening on my phones, etc. How about monetizing that? And how about monetizing that, the various articles that I write, various thought-provoking ideas that I put forth? There needs to be a mechanism to monetize that. New economy, this is a very tough, complicated and a controversial subject also. Most of you know that. But a proper regulation is bound to be, otherwise it will be a banana republic. The Web 3.0 is going to be a banana republic if there is no regulation, especially in terms of finance. And this I feel is the most complicated and controversial aspect of Web 3. And finally, the technologies that Web 3.0 is opening up, it's absolutely important. Metaverse is real. We have seen that it's real. DApps is real. Semantic web is real. Edge AI is, all these are real. These are fantastic concepts. No doubt about this. I have full faith in this particular promise. But when it comes to the decentralization part of that is something we'll have to see. So I personally feel that, there will be a good amount of dependency on big tech in different ways, and only a couple of years will tell us that. So this is a quick revisiting of the promise. I would like to finally leave this team with some important things. I will definitely not go through these. There's a word of ethic. How the ethics going to be with everything. We are talking about ethics in metaverse. 4 years back we talked about ethics in AI. We started talking about ethics in metaverse. We'll talk about ethics in sustainability. So we 3.0 also, there has to be ethics in a much bigger way actually. Some of the things are too good to be true. Ownership contents. Regulation we talked about. Security, don't know, I can say. Power shift, I told you, that's the thing. Personally I feel that it's going to be a power shift. Highly intrusive. Some of the aspects of semantic web are downright scary, if you will. We can talk about that offline, some of the examples that I got to know. New unimaginable ways of cybercrime, terrorism and things. Sustainability issues, I spoke about this yesterday with some of us. Some of the high compute is anti-sustainability also. And clutter and too many things to choose. If I have to pick up which technology, it's going to be a little bit difficult unless I burn my fingers, burn my hands a little bit, and difficult to build. And unforeseen operational cost. Some of the things could be downright forcing people to upgrade, etc. And require better processors. Some of the things you need some really good processors. You might have seen even Altspace VR desktop makes your desktop so slow, right? Think about other things, and it's going to be unforeseen operational costs. So 13 important things. I'll be sharing this document later also. I was able to pack it in the minutes given to me. But the important thing is, 3.0 has multiple things. And as I said, different applied platforms. I was discussing with so many PPG leads in earlier calls. We need to pick and choose. And the implementation, we'll have to closely watch. And probably next steps in this particular IPS CTIO team is that together we can actually identify the areas that are applicable to each of our platforms. So that's pretty much it. I'm sorry I was running, but maybe next time there are much things to cover. Maybe a few demos also. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Karthik. Karthik, there are some questions. I see Varsha's hand up as well. Would you